I'm sitting here on my balcony in Montreal, looking out over the beautiful Parc La Fontaine, a wonderful city with the smell of bagels, running bikes, dog walkers, and blue-colored steed and buses. Safe, green, and happy. That was how I saw Montreal. The cool Canadian air is a world away from where my story began. My name is Petit Bouton, and I want to take you back to my first home, a place of vibrant chaos and heart-wrenching beauty, the dusty streets of Maradana, in Colombo, Sri Lanka. Imagine a city humming with life, the air thick with the smell of spices, incense, and exhaust fumes. Tuk-tuks weave through traffic like colorful insects, their horns a constant, almost musical, backdrop. The streets are a whirlwind of activity, people rushing to and from the market, kids in crisp school uniforms, and the ever-present stray dogs. We were part of that landscape, ghosts in the machine. We lived near a temple, its golden spires reaching for the sky, and a bustling school where children's laughter spilled out onto the streets. For us, the strays, these places offered a strange kind of sanctuary. The temple grounds sometimes meant leftover food offerings, and the school children occasionally shared a piece of their lunch. But life was always precarious, always lived on the edge. We were called Paraya dogs. It's a term that carries a heavy weight. In Sri Lanka, it refers to the common, mixed-breed street dogs, the ones nobody owns, the outcasts. We are a unique landrace, genetically distinct, having evolved for centuries alongside humans on the island. We're intelligent, resilient, and perfectly adapted to our environment. But to many, we were just part of the scenery, invisible, or worse, a nuisance. We were the pariahs, the unwanted. I remember my mother. She was sleek and clever, with eyes that held the wisdom of 1,000 Colombo nights. She taught us everything: how to find food, how to read the moods of humans, and most importantly, how to survive. She would lead us through the labyrinthine alleyways, her tail a confident banner we followed without question. She was our whole world, our protector, our sun. Then came the day the rain fell, not a gentle shower, but a relentless monsoon downpour that turned the dusty streets into muddy rivers. The world became a blur of gray sheets of water and the hiss of tires on wet asphalt. We were trying to cross the road, a wide, busy thoroughfare. The noise was deafening, the roar of the rain, the cacophony of horns. My mother was shepherding us, her small litter of pups, across the treacherous street. She was so careful, so focused. But then, out of the gray haze, a Leyland bus appeared. It was a giant, lumbering beast, moving far too fast for the slick, wet conditions. Everything happened in a sickening, slow-motion instant. The screech of brakes that came too late, a sickening thud that echoed louder than the thunder, and then silence. The bus roared on, disappearing into the rain as if nothing had happened. My mother was gone, just like that. The warmth, the safety, the center of our universe extinguished on a rain-slicked road. That was the moment I truly understood what it meant to be a street dog. Life was cheap, and survival was a battle fought every single second. The street that had been our home was also a killer. We were alone, a tiny, shivering huddle of orphan puppies. The world felt immense and terrifying. The monsoon rains continued for days. We found shelter under the narrow awning of a small shop, its corrugated tin roof barely keeping the deluge at bay. We pressed our small bodies together, a desperate knot of fur and bone, trying to share what little warmth we had left. Hunger was a constant, gnawing ache in our bellies. Fear was the air we breathed. Each passing shadow, every loud noise, set our hearts hammering against our ribs. Many nights, we cried for our mother, our soft whimpers lost in the sound of the rain. We were so small, so helpless. It felt like the world had forgotten us, that we would simply fade away, another sad, unnoticed tragedy of the streets. But even in the darkest of places, sometimes a little light shines through. One evening, a man appeared. He was old and his clothes were worn, his face etched with the lines of a hard life. He was one of the many poor souls who also lived on the fringes of society. He saw us, a miserable pile of puppies, and his expression softened. He disappeared for a moment and came back with a small, battered bowl. He poured a little milk into it, a precious, life-giving offering. We swarmed the bowl, lapping up the milk with frantic desperation. It wasn't much, but it was everything. It was hope. It was a sign that maybe, just maybe, kindness still existed in this harsh world. This stranger, who had so little himself, shared what he had. He came back a few more times, a silent guardian angel in the pouring rain. His small acts of compassion kept us alive. As the weeks passed, we grew. We were still skinny and scruffy, but we were survivors. I learned I had to be tough. I became the feisty one, the barker. I would stand my ground, my tiny body puffed up with a bravado I didn't truly feel, barking at anyone who came too close. It was my way of protecting my siblings, my way of saying, we are still here, we matter. Then came the day that changed everything. The sun was finally out, turning the damp streets to steam. Two women were walking down our alley. They were clearly foreigners, with their backpacks and wide, curious eyes. They looked different, smelled different. My instincts screamed danger, or at least unpredictable, so I did what I did best. I ran forward and started barking my head off, a tiny, furry ball of fury, telling these giants to back off. My siblings cowered behind me, but I stood firm. The two women stopped. They didn't shout or shoo me away. Instead, they crouched down. One of them, a woman named Natalie, started speaking in a soft, gentle voice. The other woman, Genevieve, just watched me, a small, kind smile on her face. They weren't scared. They seemed amused, intrigued. They saw past the noisy, aggressive display. They saw a tiny puppy trying to be brave. They stayed there for a long time, just talking to us, letting us get used to their presence. They came back the next day, and the day after that. They brought food, not just scraps, but real, delicious food. Slowly, my barks turned into curious sniffs. My fear started to melt away, replaced by a cautious curiosity. There was something about Genevieve, the way she looked at me, her eyes filled with the softness I hadn't seen since my mother. One afternoon, she reached her hand out, slowly, palm up. I hesitated, my survival instincts warring with a deep, primal yearning for comfort. I took a tentative step forward, then another. I sniffed her fingers, and then I gave her hand a tiny lick. In that moment, a connection was forged. A silent understanding passed between a lost little street dog and a kind-hearted traveler. Genevieve gently scooped me up. I was so light, I probably weighed nothing. I expected to be scared, to struggle, but instead, I froze. She held me close to her chest, her hand stroking my back. I could feel the steady beat of her heart, a rhythm of safety and warmth. She whispered to me, "It's okay, little one. You're safe now. I'm going to take you home." Home. It was a word I didn't understand, a concept I couldn't imagine. My whole life had been the unforgiving street, but as she held me tight, looking down at me with so much love, I knew my life was about to change forever. I was no longer just a Paraya dog, I was hers. And that is how my journey from the streets of Colombo to the balconies of Montreal began. But this is just the first part of my story. The journey to get here was long and filled with its own challenges. If you want to know what happened next, how I traveled across the world to my forever home, make sure you subscribe and hit that notification bell for part 2. Thanks for listening.